guys, I hope you're doing well. I have this little pot. If you watched my video taking apart this big round pot of cuttings a few days ago, you probably saw this long stem that I had here, and I said I was going to plant it up and pin some of the branches down to the soil to root in a few other places. And after I mentioned that, I thought, you know what, I'm going to show what that looks like, just because it can be a little bit confusing. When you think of planting a really long stem like this and pinning it around, you know, around the pot, you might think you need a bigger pot, like this, for example. So you can plant it, the roots, and then pin it around like this, and then it can grow out, because as you can see, these branches are branching out from here. Hopefully you can see that, and they'll just start growing and filling in really well. However, when you're potting up a cutting, it is really, really, really important to put it in an appropriate pot size for its roots, not for the amount of foliage that there is. Even if this was, you know, 3 huge branches, if the root ball, which I'm just gonna gently dump this out and re-show you guys, because I was right in the middle of doing this and I thought, this is how much root this has, okay? So this pot here is even borderline on the large side, but I'm gonna baby this guy and get him going really well, and he's gonna do great. So I'm gonna go ahead and go this large. But even, you know, he could thrive very well in a 2-inch pot, honestly, but we want him to root in other places, and so I'm gonna go with a little bit of a larger pot. But if you go with too large of a pot, you are almost guaranteed to have rot problems, because the roots are not spreading out throughout the pot and absorbing the water and helping it evaporate off through transpiration via their leaves. It's just sitting there, and so that's not ideal. So smaller is better with succulents, for sure. So once I get it like this, what I'm using here is some old jewelry wire that I don't like. I have lots of jewelry supplies, and I don't know, this probably came in a box of something, and I'm never going to use it for jewelry. It's just some braided wire, but I will absolutely use it for my plants. I use it for ties and all kinds of stuff. So just cut a piece of wire like this, and I like them, I would rather them too long than too short. Just bend it into a U shape. Just make us a little staple. I'm just making the top just a little bit smaller. Like so. And then we're just gonna wrap a little bit. And there's a place right here where this branch, there's a new branch coming off right here, and I'm gonna pin this first pin right in that crux so that that is held down against the soil. So I'm just making sure I'm only pinning the stem, not any of the leaves, down. And then I'm gonna push it down just a little bit and put a tiny, just move the soil around a tiny bit to where it's barely covering the top of that stem where I pinned it down there. And then I'm gonna keep wrapping this around here. I'm actually going to weave this under this branch to give it even more stability. There we go. And this will encourage the leaves to grow up and out also, because they'll grow towards the light. And just to make sure if it gets bumped or moved, I'm going to go ahead. It doesn't really need another wire right here, because I put it under this branch. It is laying against the soil. But just to make sure, there's a bit of a larger space between the leaves, and there's a little node where it looks like another branch might come out. And that's how I decided to make the choice here, but really anywhere in between leaves and branches you can totally decide. Now, after this roots, we can cut where the little things are and have several branches coming out, so it won't be loops. We can actually just snip this and we'll have 2 rooted ends at the end. Also, I found in another pot one more little piece that was away, so I am just going to put this guy down here right in the middle here where nothing is, so he can root and help fill in as well. And this is a very loose mix. This is a lot of vermiculite and a little bit of peat for some acidity, a lot of pumice, some sand, and coconut husk. And I like vermiculite because it's sterile. And so when I'm starting seeds, or if anything's struggling with some bacteria or something, I really like it. And I tend to use it for cuttings as a mixture a fair amount, just because I have less rot and infection problems. And I assume it's because it's sterile. Seems to be the main explanation for me. Pumice works pretty well too, but it just dries out a bit too fast for me. So there we go. There's what the pot looks like now. We just have one free end here, which was the very end, but I'm going to leave this like this. Once it starts branching out and being really clear that it's healthy and has rooted, then I can go ahead and snip and allow some of these other branches to be free and hang over the pot. But if you're doing a pot like a large cutting like this that has a lot of that is very top heavy but doesn't have a lot of roots, be sure and keep that in mind when choosing your pot size. Even if your plant looks ridiculously disproportionate to your pot size, it is far better to do that and have a happy plant and let its root system get a bit more established before you put it in a larger pot than it is to go the other way. Better too small than too big with these guys. Alrighty, that is it for today. I will talk to you guys soon, and happy growing.